My son's 11. I was 11 when I lost my dad. I look at him and I still wonder, how did my dad look at me that Friday and tell me he loved me as I went to school, and then went through and did what he did? Because I could never do that to my son.
You know, addiction is a difficult thing to understand. And being somebody who's walked through it, I can promise you this, man. Your dad meant what he said. He didn't have the ability not to navigate that addiction, but I'm a firm believer. Had you hooked him up to a lie detector test that day when he told you that he loved you, he did.
I took on a new role. I'm 21 years old and I'm raising my 15-year-old nephew. Brand new cop. You know, I got a lot on the plate and I'm just trying to do my best. I was in survival mode.
You know, I don't think that you went into survival mode. I don't know that you ever got out of it.
He said, I told him, like, look, I don't know what I'm doing and you don't know what you're doing, but we're going to figure it out together. And I think growing up, like, I just wanted a man to like tell me that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's podcast. I'm your host, Chris Logan, a First Responder Wellness podcast. We have a great guest here today, an alumni from our program, and I'm really looking forward to getting reacquainted with him after he came through the program, kind of hearing a little more about where his life ended up after the program. We'll talk to him a little bit about what it took for him to get into law enforcement and why he's not in it any longer. So without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself?
All right. So as you know, my name is Rozzy. I came to this program like 3 years ago. I was in law enforcement for 13 years.
Yeah.
And coming here changed my life.
Yeah.
It kind of helped me find the Rozzy that I was meant to be, and just gave me a totally different outlook on life.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which is always good to hear, right? So when did you come through the program?
I believe it was 2022.
Yep, that's why I'm somewhere in my mind. 2022, 2023, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Pretty early on for us. We were still developing quite a few things. I mean, we had a solid program at that point in time. So, and yeah, I remember a lot of your time here with us, which was really great. I remember the barbecue stuff for sure.
Yeah. Blue goods.
So we'll get into a little bit of that. So one of the things that we do here is we just really want our audience to know our people, right? Some of the people that came through here and what got them here. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about who you are, man. What was it like growing up?
Yeah. So growing up, my childhood was pretty crazy. You know, I mean, I grew up in the church. So I went to Calvary Chapel, started going there in first grade, graduated from there. But, you know, as a child, I had 3 older sisters, and my mom and dad fought a lot. Cops in and out of the house, dad getting arrested. He was addicted to painkillers. And, you know, obviously as a young boy, like, I didn't know that, you know, like, why is dad falling asleep with a cigarette in his mouth?
Yeah.
You know, I just thought dad's tired. Dad works a lot. And I think I was 10 going on 11. Him and my mom got into a fight. He would always take off to the beach, like for the weekend. I guess that was his thing, run away from your problems, right?
Yeah, could be.
And this one weekend, he just didn't come back. And so I remember sitting on the couch, I'm playing Xbox, mom's doing dishes. The doorbell rings, and I go get it, and it's 2 guys in suits, detectives. And they're like, oh, is Cindy Rael here? And I'm like, yeah, let me go get her. Tell my mom, hey, mom, there's 2 cops here for you. And, you know, me being a nosy kid, I like stay by the door, and I'm listening, and I hear them say, is your husband Robert Rael? And she says, yeah. And they're like, we found him deceased. Oh, man. So, you know, young age, my dad took his own life. You know, he... Which is still, you know, even I'm going to be 36 on Monday. Yeah. And it's sometimes still like a hard pill to swallow. For sure. No pun intended, right? Yeah. But I just never understood that. And so I made a promise to myself at that point, and I told myself I would never touch drugs. And I don't even like taking Tylenol When I have a headache, I'm like, just drink more water. You know, I tell my kids the same thing. You got a headache, drink more water, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely changed my life. So growing up without a dad, not learning how to do, you know, how to work on cars,
Right.
playing high school football, not seeing them there. It caused this thing inside of me to always gravitate towards that father figure, you know, whether it was my football coach, my buddies' dads, anything like that. I was looking for the discipline. And I was a mama's boy. I'm the only boy and I'm the baby.
Yep.
And, you know, I understand now my mom had to take on a new role.
For sure.
And it wasn't just, you know, come lay with me, you know, being the mama's boy. She had to take care of 3-4 kids on her own.
Yeah.
So and she's Italian, 5 foot. So I mean,
It's a lot.
add that to it. She was no joke. But you know, she kept us in private school all those years, and I graduated from Calvary Chapel, and so my foundation always fell on God, right?
Nice.
And I think that's one of the big reasons, like, why I'm still here. Because, you know, growing up in high school, too, it's like, unintentionally, my first, like, solution, not that I never tried suicide, never did anything like that, but, like, unintentionally, it would be the first thought, right? Like, something goes wrong in my life, or I'm grounded because I got a D, or I can't go somewhere. And it's like, that's the first thought. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
You know, because I never had, you know, a plan or anything. And it was always just a split second thought.
So let me ask you, first off, thank you.
Yeah.
Right? For like just diving right in. I mean, we're 30 seconds in and you're like,
Do you guys still use that term here? Lean in?
lean in, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're right into the thick of it, right?
Yeah.
So we already know a little.
It's going to get thicker, Chris.
That's okay. That's all right. So you were young. I mean, this is before high school. How old were you?
I think I just turned 11. So I turned 11 in August, and this was in February.
So there's another interesting piece that, you know, with a lot of our first responders that may or may not be known, but a lot of them have, yourself included, obviously, adverse childhood stuff, right? So you, even prior to this, right, unfortunately, your dad had this addiction, which led to these fractured relationships with inside the unit where mom and dad are kind of at it, you know, ultimately to this point where dad decides to take his own life.
Yeah.
Right, which leaves a huge hole in the family, and so you're trying to navigate these things early on, trying to figure out, like, you know, how to do life without a dad. Mom steps in, she's taking all these roles, but you pick up this interesting piece that you're mentioning now, where it's like life starts to get stressful, and you think like, maybe I'll check out.
Yeah.
You don't have a plan to do anything.
No.
Just kind of in your mind, like, connecting those two pieces, like, dad kind of did it. I wonder if that's the answer for me.
Yeah.
And so how long did you go through life kind of thinking that way?
You know, I remember in high school, because I could, like, remember my room, my twin bed, like, looking out the window, just like, I don't, you know, as a teenager, like, can you be a victim? Yeah, I think I would always keep this, I don't have a dad, you know. Now it's a joke with my close friends, you know. I'm like, oh, you went fishing with your dad. That's cool. I wish I could do that, you know.
Yeah.
But that's like an uncomfortable, dark humor, right?
But it's still very much the truth.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that point, and then, like, there's like an empty period where I didn't feel that. And I think I didn't feel that because I had to step into a new role in my life, right? So I joined the police academy at 20. I originally wanted to go to the Art Institute. It was just too expensive. I've always been into art. You know, that's the one thing me and my dad did, is we drew. And he was good, I'm good. And I wanted to be a tattoo artist, a graphic designer. I just knew something with art. Well, then my sister, she was dating this guy, and he was a correctional deputy. And I'm like 18, I had long hair, and he's like, what are you doing with your life? And like the first time I met him, and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah. What do you mean, bro?
Yeah,
I'm doing art.
I'm going to be a tattoo artist. He's like, oh, okay. Well, here, go to this testing. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's to be a correctional deputy. Just slick your hair back, go to this, do that, right? So I go through it all. I got through. There was a hiring freeze. They called me like a year and a half later. They're like, hey, the freeze is up. Do you want to go sworn? I didn't even know what sworn meant. I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, you get to carry a gun, you make more money. I'm like, sign me up, right? Like, that sounds great.
What are you, like 19? 20?
I was 20. So I was 20 in the academy. My mom had to buy my firearm. So it was in her name. And I got a lot of crap from the tax staff for that.
Yeah, I bet.
So I joined the academy. I graduate in 2010, October. I turned 21 in the middle of the academy. I still went to Vegas.
Did what graduating cops do.
Yeah. So I went to Vegas while in the academy because I'm like, dude, I'm turned 21. I'm like, I'm going. But I graduate in October. And then they send me straight to the jails. And February, the next year, 2011, I get a call from the jail. I wasn't working, and it was like maybe like 1:32 in the morning, and I didn't answer it. They left me a voicemail saying that there was a fire at my sister's house. And yeah, I was confused. I'm like,
interesting.
And this is my oldest sister. She has 6 kids. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, and the guy's like, oh, there's a fire, this is a serious career. If people are calling and prank calling, like, it just didn't make sense, right? So my other sister, my second oldest sister, she lived with me, or we lived together, and I wake her up and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go to Brandy's house. Like, I got a weird call from my supervisor saying that there's a fire at her house. So she comes with me, we drive there, we pull down the street, and there's a command center set up, right? Command post. And I'm fresh out the academy. I'm like, oh, this isn't good.
This isn't good.
So I pull straight up to the caution tape, pull my badge out, thinking like they're going to just let me in.
Right.
I don't know. I've seen it on movies, and I was a brand new cop. And they're like, yeah, go over there. And so I go to the command post, and they tell me my sister is deceased.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, where are my 6 nieces and nephews? 4 of them were at the hospital. They tell me they're okay, and 2 of them are at Moreno Valley Police Station. My gut feeling is like, call this dude that my sister was dating for like 3-4 years. She recently broke up with him. Something inside of me, it's like 3 a.m, right?
Yeah.
They told me no information. They tell me to call him. I call him, he answers. And I'm like, hey, where are you at? He had this tired voice. Oh, I'm sleeping. I'm like, now, like, the brother, the brand new cop, I had some different words and I'm going to use, but I'm like, no, you're not sleeping. Where are you? Let me know where you're at, because I'm going to meet you. And he's asking me, what's going on? What's going on? And it was at that moment that I knew this guy killed my sister. And so I'm on the phone with him. A detective walks up. He's like, who you talking to? And my other sister is like, the guy that killed our sister. And they told us nothing, Chris. It was like both of us had this gut feeling with no communication with each other. And so I just hang up on the guy. And I'm like, okay, so what do you guys want me to do? And they're like, we're going to take you to the police station. He calls me back. And I'm like, should I answer this, right? Like, in my mind, I'm like, we should get a recording device. We should do something.
Yeah.
They're like, let's wait till we get to the police station. Tell them you got to talk to someone and you'll call them right back. And I'm like, look, man, I've been a cop for about four hours. Is this what you guys really want me to tell them? They're like, yeah. And sure enough, I never talked to him again. But so my sister was murdered in front of her 6 kids. And I took custody of my oldest nephew, who's 15. So to get to the point of what you asked originally is, how long did these thoughts go on? These thoughts weren't there, right? I took on a new role. I'm 21 years old and I'm raising my 15-year-old nephew.
Yeah.
And brand new cop, I got a lot on the plate and I'm just trying to do my best.
Yeah.
And I was in survival mode, right? Like, I want to raise my sister's son as best as I can. I mean, I was his age 6 years ago.
Right.
So it was a lot, but I wouldn't change any of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you went into survival mode. I don't know that you ever got out of it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about loss after loss at this point, right? And so you're 20 years old, you know, still trying to grieve the loss of your dad.
Yeah.
Right. And figure out what life is going to be like. And, you know, we'll back this up a little bit, this whole idea of like, yeah, well, I didn't have a dad, you know, and it's very, for people who didn't grow up with a father, you understand like it's a difficult world to navigate without that male influence. And I think it's every young boy's kind of dream, right, is to have those fishing trips with your dad, to learn how to work on car, like all of these things that dad teaches you. And when it's absent, it makes the world a lot different. It makes the view in which you see things different. And you can fall into that kind of victim mentality, right? And it's very easy to kind of navigate the world of like, yeah, well, if you had to deal with what I had to deal with, you'd act this way too, or you just wouldn't care about this, or you'd be upset about that. And so I think there was a lot of that. And then at like 20 years old, somebody approaches you and is like, tries to give you some mentorship on some level and says, hey, kind of looks like you're, you know, going down the wrong path here. What are you doing? Long hair, drawing, you're going to do a tattoo artist. Okay, guy, try this. And just kind of instinctively, you took that direction, right? And it's like, well, I'm not going to be a correction officer. It looks like I'm going to be a law enforcement officer. So you're navigating all of that only to get this information, you know what, a couple years later?
I mean, I graduated October, a couple months later.
Yeah.
So February following.
So you're 20, 21, 22 years old at this point, and having dealt with all this loss already, and now taking on the responsibility, just jumping right in and saying, you know, let me take care of my nephew.
Yeah.
That's a difficult role for a 22-year-old kid.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. A lot of learning, I think, from both me and my nephew. And, you know, it's crazy because he remembers things that I don't.
Sure.
And I guess I told him this one thing. I get a little emotional, right? Like when it comes to my nephew. Thing. But he said, I told him, like, look, I don't know what I'm doing and you don't know what you're doing, but we're going to figure it out together, right? And I think growing up, like, I just wanted a man to like tell me that. Yep.
Yeah. And that's the thing I'm talking about. When you start to see the world differently when you don't have that. When you don't have that, right? You start to see the world differently. And so you saw this opportunity. One, you saw the road for your nephew that you didn't want him to go down.
Yeah.
And you understood, like, man, this kid can't go through life without any guidance.
Yeah.
And let me be that guidance that wasn't there for me and kind of step into that, right?
Yeah.
Which is dude, that's a difficult thing to do. And what a fair statement. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing, but we're going to figure it out together. And he intuitively knew that was the truth too. He's like, yeah, no, you're right. Like, you know, which I think is so cool because, you know, a lot of people don't give 15 and 16-year-old kids that kind of credit.
Yeah.
Right? They try to hide it'll be okay. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be okay or not, but we're going to figure it out together, you know? And I think that's so cool. And then you were able to do that, right? So from that point, like, how is life starting to unfold for you? So you're a brand new cop. You're raising your nephew, right? It's just you. Are you married or anything at that point? Like,
I was engaged.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we got married 2020. Wait a minute, not 2020. We got married 2012. So she helped a lot too, you know. And my sister was living with us for a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we were just all young.
Yeah.
You know, like that wasn't a part of our plan.
No.
And you know, I've never been like a big drinker either. And so I think, like, all this being said, right? Like, I learned this here at First Responder Wellness is that I was doing a lot of self-sabotaging.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go to my sister's house on the anniversary of when she died every year, and I would sit outside that house and I would picture what happened, right? And I would just be angry, you know? And so a lot of that, you know, I think, at least in my head, I think like I did a good job at hiding all that stuff from my nephew and whatnot, but it definitely took a toll on my marriage at that time. And I don't want to say that led me to cheat, right? Yeah. But because, you know, Chris, I'm a firm believer, man, that like we all have a choice to make in life.
Sure.
Right? And I think that's where I could be a little insensitive sometimes to people, because it's like I went through hell and back, and I could blame my life on my actions, or I could just man up and say, no, I'm making really poor choices on my own.
These are consequences,
right?
Of my decisions.
Because like the Bible says, dude, God's always going to give us a way out of temptation. Yeah. I just chose the other way. Yep. So, yeah, it took a toll on all of it. You know?
Well, and how could it not? Brand not even married.
Yeah.
Right? Dealing with the grief and loss of your dad, dealing with the grief and loss of your sister, now taking on the responsibility of your nephew, right? And a brand new relationship and a brand new career.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be a little stressed out, right? And not just any career, right? You're a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
So, and here's the thing too that I don't think that many people comprehend, right? You're a law enforcement officer. You're also raising your nephew, brand new marriage, right? Suffering from grief and loss. You're also a human being far outside of the realm of upholding the law and doing your job, which is incomprehensible to most people, what it is that you guys have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And now you've got all of this compounding stuff in your life. So where do you have, it's no wonder you get lost. It's no wonder you get overwhelmed. It's no wonder you have these challenges later on that bring you to us, right? Mm-hmm. It's no wonder. But I think for so many people, they don't ever stop to realize, right? Nobody that you had to deal with while on the job would have known this is going on outside of, you know, in your life. Nobody would know that.
Yeah.
Nobody would have any clue. And nobody would also have any compassion or empathy for a day where you might get a little short with somebody for a traffic stop or some BS, right?
Yeah.
No, you're just an a-hole cop who's power tripping, who was bullied in high school, right? Like all the stuff that we hear. Mm-hmm. Nobody has any kindness, empathy, and compassion for you guys. But it's interesting, and I love the way that this is coming out. It's like there's all this stuff going on in your life, and every day you got to suit up, you got to show up, and you're working in the jails right now too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, you're working in the jails. You got all this stuff going on in your life that is just horrific, overwhelming, trying to navigate. You know, never mind trying to navigate all the legal stuff and all that, right? It's just consuming you completely. But now let's step inside the jails.
Yeah, they had to remove, I remember they had to remove the article in the newspapers that were going to all the inmates because my last name was in it.
Yep.
And yeah, so it was a lot. I mean, and so shortly after that, I lateraled to Corona PD. So I was with Riverside Sheriff, and then I lateral to Corona, so I get off training, and then jury trial starts. And I had this one lieutenant who was he never made me burn any vacation time, and he allowed me to take every day off for jury trial.
Wow.
And to me, like, and I don't know, like, if I ever told him, but, like, that meant everything, you know?
Of course.
Because, like, yeah, there was moments where if I was at work where I could see that my emotions would take over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And going into a room, and this dude would just, Chris, I could close my eyes and see it. He would just, like, just mad dog me. And I'm like, you're looking at me like that, and you killed my sister. And at first, I would always have my gun on me. And those thoughts ran through my head.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I could do something before anybody even reacts in here, you know? And then I'm like, but I can't. One, it's not like what I believe in.
Yeah.
And two, I have my nephew to take care of, right?
Yep.
And but here's the best part of it all, right? Like, bad things happen in life, and you always hear God's got a plan, right?
Yeah.
Well, I yelled at God when all this happened, and I'm like, you know, you're supposed to take care of your children. She had 6 kids, man, that watched their mom get murdered, set on fire. They were grabbing cups of water, pouring them on her, pillows. Like, I'm talking ages 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and then my nephew 15.
Wow.
Like, that's not normal, you know? And so I had a lot of hate in my heart. And it was the last day of jury trial, and my family was allowed to say whatever we wanted, right? And my nephew, he must have been maybe 17 now at this point. He stands up and he tells the dude, all I ask is that you turn in your chair and look at me. And I'm standing right next to my nephew, right? And I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm looking at this dude like, dude, I will kill you right now. And my nephew's over here, right? 17-year-old kid. And he's like, I forgive you. He's like, I hope that you find Jesus because he forgives you too. And it was that moment, man, I felt so tiny. And I was like, dude, if this kid right here has forgiven this guy that killed his mom, like, who am I?
Right.
Like, who am I to hold on to this?
Yeah.
And like, my nephew didn't even realize what he did for me.
Yeah.
Probably what he did for my mom that lost her daughter, you know, my other sisters. And he just broke all that hate,
Yeah.
you know? And don't get me wrong, throughout the years, like the self-sabotaging, right? That comes into play. But yeah, it was that moment that it's like, dude, that is real forgiveness.
Yeah. And to have that insight at 17 years old, you know, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, for such a horrific thing to happen and be witness to, and then be able to stand there and say like, hey, just look at me. I'm gonna release myself of this, and I'm gonna forgive you. I hope you find God, right? Like at 17 years old, and the impact that has.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So you're dealing with all of this, and how are you navigating your career with Riverside, or you're at this point
Corona
with
PD.
Corona? How are you navigating that? Are you on patrol?
Yeah,
Are you still
I
in the jails?
was on patrol. So as soon as I went to Corona PD, I hit patrol. And I don't know. I think it's my personality, right? Like, I'm a jokester,
Yep.
which I learned here is one of my masks.
Yep.
And so I guess I fed off the teamwork. I fed off the fact that, you know, guys are relying on me. I'm relying on them. Like, even if we don't like each other, we're both still going home at the end of the day.
Nice.
So that was one of the biggest thing in law enforcement. And, you know, just seeing that people cared. And I think that's what I've always wanted, right? Like, I just wanted to see that people cared, because growing up, you know, losing my dad, people care.
Right.
And then the funeral's done.
Yep.
And then everyone goes back to their normal life. And a lot of the people that cared,
Yeah.
like, they're not checking up on you, you know?
Yeah.
So especially for my mom,
Right.
you know, like seeing her navigate life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I worked patrol probably for like eight years. In 2013, my son was born. That changed my life,
Yeah.
you know. Right before he was born, I bought a camera. And I was like, man, I'm never paying anyone to take photos of my kids, you know? So I learned how to do photography. I'd shoot weddings on the side for $100. My buddy was teaching me whatever he knew, which was a lot. And still just working patrol. So maybe like 2018, 2019, the police department asked me to help out with their social media.
Oh,
and I'm
wow.
like, oh, how's your guys' social media look? They didn't have one. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you know, I started just using the gifts that God gave me my creativity, just like coming up with cool concepts, doing the Pink Patch Project, Coffee with the Cop, just trying to show police officers are human beings, right? Trying to show our city that, trying to show the world that. In the process of that, you know, I got multiple stories on the news, positive ones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm playing basketball with kids.
Yeah.
You know, doing some skateboard things, raising money. So, I mean, doing all that. And then eventually I became the permanent PIO, Public Information Officer.
Okay.
So I finally got off the streets. And I thought like everything was going to be great, right? And it was great. I was off the streets doing my thing. But to backtrack a little bit, I had my daughter too in 2015. Yep. So that changed my life even more because now I got this little baby girl, right? Like my son's my dog, like he's my road dog, but my daughter is like, I will kill for you. like you are my baby, right? And yeah, so 2 kids. And yeah, so I become the PIO, do all that. And then I think that was 2021, 2022. And I'm starting to realize like that I haven't dealt with anything.
Nope.
Right?
Yeah. I'm
cheating. My wife and I are separating. And I just, this is where that feeling comes back, right?
Yeah.
Of what's my purpose here?
Yep. Yeah.
What is my purpose here? And I remember sitting in my police car, and not in my police car, sorry. I was in my office because I was in a cubicle now. I was a cubicle cop. And I just like Googled, like, I think I was looking up therapy or therapy for law enforcement, right? Like I'm looking up anything and everything. And keep in mind, my mom forced us to go to counseling or therapy when we were kids, and I didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk to anybody, right? And even as an adult at that point, I'm like, how is somebody going to help me when they haven't been through what I've been through?
Yeah, and I was just getting ready to say, like, and we'll get right to that. How is anybody going to help me that hasn't been through what I've been through? Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, for you, having dealt with so much personal trauma early on, how did that shape you as a law enforcement officer? Like, how did that have you interacting with people who were dealing with some of this stuff?
So I think it gave me a bigger heart. Yeah. You know, I think when people lost their dad and they were young kids, like I remember this one call, this lady calls in and her husband must have been in his 40s, right? And, you know, he was sick. She couldn't find him. She thought maybe he went to work. His work truck was in the car. She goes and looks in the bathroom and he's deceased on the toilet, right? And he had 3 little boys. I'll never forget, me and my partner, he just had these 3 little boys, and one of the little boys was like, is my daddy okay? He was throwing up. And it just broke me, you know? And so like those calls, I felt for these kids. I've always had a big heart for trying to help the youth. Because I was there. You know? So much. Like even when I was on the news playing basketball, it was because I got out of my car and I said, hey, I want to play basketball with you guys. And they were afraid of the police. It was in a neighborhood where they were afraid of the police. And this little girl, must have been 5, was like, oh, I'm afraid of the police. And I'm like, sweetie, you have nothing to be afraid of. I just want to play basketball with you guys. Right. You know, and then some older knucklehead's like, why don't you play me one-on-one? I mean, I beat him 5-0. It's on the news. You could still find it. But I grew up in Moval, right? So these kids don't know I got a J. But, yeah, I mean, so with that, with what happened with my dad, I think it gave me a big heart for the youth. Because I didn't want to see kids go through what I went through. And then with my sister, it like gave me a big heart for domestic violence and stuff like that. And one call in specific, this lady, she was with this guy. He beat the crap out of her. And I told her, I said, you're going to end up dead. And she's like, what do you mean? And I pulled up my sleeve and I'm like, this is my sister. I was like, she was in a domestic violence relationship, and there was multiple different incidences that occurred, and now she's not here with us anymore. And it was the result of that man.
Yeah.
And so I see her in court months later. I didn't even recognize her, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I say things to people and I just like black out, where I'm like, I didn't even realize I helped you. But she comes up to me, she's like, Officer Rael. And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you don't remember me? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. And she was like, you talked to me that day and you saved my life.
Yep.
And it's those moments when you sit there and you wonder, God, what are you doing in this situation? Where's the good? Where's the good, right? That's part of the good.
You're it.
Yeah.
You're it.
Yeah. So, it definitely gave me a big heart in those situations. And I think as a police officer, I treated everyone fair, right?
Yeah.
Like, until like you want to be disrespectful, like,
Right.
I'll play that game too.
We got two ways to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got two personalities.
We got two
which
ways
is
to
why
do
I was
this.
here.
Yeah. But I think that's so huge, right? I think that's such... It says a lot about your character, but it also says a lot about how these difficult times can shape us. We can allow them to do two things, right?
Yeah.
We can allow them to work for the greater good, which in your case it did. I mean, it took some getting there, which makes complete sense. But now you're in a position where you're impacting lives to a point you probably don't even realize it. There's probably so many times where on those calls or in those instances where you are that navigating light for a young kid, right, who's going through that time, and just showing a little bit of empathy and compassion, knowing what it's like to be in that position. Domestic violence, like you said, like you were able to tell her, like, listen. And this is again where I think so many people separate law enforcement or any first responders from the general public, which is like, oh, you're cops, like you don't know what it's like. And it's like, hold on a minute, lady, let me share with you a little piece of me.
Yeah.
Let me share with you, right? So much so I have a tattoo of my sister on my arm. Let me tell you this story.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's really using that tragedy to reach somebody to the point where, a few months later, she's like, you saved my life. Mm-hmm. You saved my life. You sharing that with her where you didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
You could have been bitter. You could have taken all of that stuff and been a bitter person and went through the world. And some people would say justified, right? You're justified in your resentments. You're justified in your anger. You got that victim mentality, and you got a reason to have it because you were wronged. But you didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I think, being able to take that while wearing a badge, how effective is that? When ultimately that's what law enforcement wants to do, is be effective.
Yeah.
And that case, domestic violence cases, like how many times they don't get out. Mm-hmm. How many times they just get stuck in it, and maybe it's not the ultimate thing, like what happened to your sister, but at the same time, maybe it's just years of like constant abuse and being stuck and they never get out.
Well, I mean, that was my mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but like that was probably the best outcome. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
And, all the great stuff, but with all that did come a lot of different things, like
Sure.
Me not knowing how to treat women.
Yeah.
And those are the things that anger me, right? Like opening a car door, walking on the closest to the street on the sidewalk, right? Like the simple things. One thing I'm really good at is buying. My dad, all he did was buy for us.
Learn that. Yeah.
Right? So like if you want a good gift, tell me your birthday.
Right.
Because I'm really good at gift giving. But it's like those things and
Just missed it, dog. It's like Wednesday last week.
Oh shit.
We'll get there later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. It's just those things, and it's those things that drive me to be a better father.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's even frustrating
Sure.
because it's like my son's 11. I was 11 when I lost my dad.
Yeah.
And that's one big thing for me today is like I look at my son and he looks just like me, right? He's got these blue eyes and I look at him and I still wonder, how did my dad look at me that Friday and tell me he loved me as I went to school and then went through and did what he did?
Yeah.
Because I could never do that to my son or my daughter.
I know it's a difficult thing to hear, and it's addiction is a difficult thing to understand. Being somebody who's walked through it, I can promise you this, man. Your dad meant what he said. He meant what he said in those moments. He didn't have the ability not to navigate that addiction, but I'm a firm believer, had you hooked him up to a lie detector test that day when he told you that he loved you, he did. He was loving you to the best of his abilities. And it wasn't to your expectations, and obviously the result later on goes like, those actions don't prove otherwise.
Yeah.
But when somebody's that deep in addiction, they lose the ability to make rational decisions. They do.
Yeah.
But that moment when he told you, like, I love you, he meant it 100%. And all the times that he told you that before that, he meant it. Now, I get it. The actions don't show. And that's because he's caught up in addiction. When you talk about pain pill addiction,
Yeah.
opiates are one of the most wicked addictions to break. They're one of the hardest things on people. And they just, from the outside, make zero sense. But there's so much involved with, you know. Did he have an injury at some point and ended up on pain pills?
I know he had like some sort of mouth surgery because every time he chewed, like his eyebrow went up.
Yeah.
Which I thought looked like tough, right?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Bro.
how do I do that, dude? Like I'm eating a steak and my eyebrows going up every chew. Yeah. And then I know he had a back surgery. That's
probably what it
was. I mean, back then they're giving them 360 Vicodins a month.
Time. Yeah. Yeah, that was back. I mean, that was back at the height of the opiate epidemic, man, where doctors were prescribing. And so, not to justify, but at the same time, give some explanation to how he probably got caught up in it. And it's a wicked thing, man. But I promise you, like being somebody who went through addiction and looked at people and said, dude, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to stop. I promise you, I'm going to quit. I meant it. I wasn't BSing. I wasn't lying. I wanted to stop and I was trying to quit. And then the addiction would just take over later down the line in a couple of days and be like, bro, you're good. Like, just have a beer. Just do, you know what I mean? And bam, now I'm off and running again. There were moments in those, at those times in my addiction where I would look at my family and be, you know, my brother and my mom, and I love you guys. And I meant it. I love them. I did. Now, my actions outside of that, people would be like, that's a little confusing. You say that you love me, but, why is my purse empty? You know, you say that you love me, but why are you doing these things? And it's like, you're so deep in that, man. And you lose the power of choice. And it's a hard thing to be on the other end of that. And certainly at the age of 11.
Yeah.
At the age of 11. But if I could offer you any peace, it would be that. He meant that. No doubt about that. He meant that in those moments, despite what the actions were later down the line.
Yeah.
So now you're dealing with all that. You're in the midst of your law enforcement career. You're struggling, right? You're you know, the infidelity, and I would imagine some depression on some level is coming, right? You didn't you never had the addiction piece. You never really coped with alcohol,
no.
which is interesting. For people to understand, like when it comes to trauma, which is absolutely something that you dealt with, whether it's the personal trauma in your life or a culmination of the work trauma and the personal trauma. When it comes to how people cope, you have process addictions, right? And then you have consumptive disorders. Consumptive disorders being, you know, when we're consuming drugs and alcohol and food, right? Process addictions are things like infidelity, impulsive decisions, your gambling, right? Food's consumptive, but those sorts of things, your process addictions, they release the same chemicals. And so it is very common for somebody who has the upbringing that you had compiled with the personal trauma and then the work trauma to start having these maladaptive coping mechanisms. It just, and you know that from being here, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you're in the midst of all of this, and you start Googling and looking for help, and you're looking at this saying, how can you help me? You don't understand what I've been through, right? You don't understand the work trauma. You don't understand the personal trauma. So what led you, what was going on at that point that you needed help, and why you start Googling, therapy and that sort of stuff?
I think because all the cheating came up, cat's out of the bag, and I realized that, like, there's something deeper that's going on, right? And so I look it up, and I'm just like, I need something or I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. And so I'm looking it up. First responder wellness pops up. I call, and they ask me like, "Oh, are you an alcoholic?" Like, they probably didn't say, "Are you an alcoholic?" Right? Yeah. But like, long story short, I couldn't find anything because I wasn't an addict.
Right.
Right. I think I even tried Kaiser first.
Yeah, I think you were a Kaiser guy. Yeah. And they I don't know if we had a contract with them at that point or not.
Well, either way, I wasn't an addict, so no insurance was going to pay for me to come here, right? And I'm like, well, okay, never mind. I am an addict.
Right.
Like, if that's what I got to do to get in here for free, then awesome. But that wasn't the case because I'm like, no, like. So anyways, I end up coming here, and I'll never forget day one. Like, I was trying to find every excuse in the book not to come.
Be here.
Yeah. And my buddy, Miguel Aguilar, he owned all the self-made training facility gyms, and he recently passed away, but he was like an older brother to me. And I remember calling and telling him, and he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, but he was on his sober path. I think maybe at this time he was like 5-6 years sober. Nice. So I would always call him, right? Talk to him about everything. And he was like, Rozzy, you are trying to find every excuse not to go, because I'm like, well, they're not Christian based.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And he's like, dude, you just need to shut up and go. Stop making the excuses. Yeah. Just go. So I'm like, all right, I do it all, right? And I'm like, this point, my family's not talking to me.
Yep.
My sister in San Diego is still, and my nephew. And at this point, he's deputy sheriff now with Riverside County. No. Still working as a deputy sheriff, which is cool. So I end up coming here, and I'm just like, I remember sitting in that room with everybody, and like people are saying I'm an alcoholic, I'm addicted to these pills, and I'm like, do I belong here?
Yeah.
Right? And everyone's saying lean in. Yeah. And I'm like, is this a cult? Am I at a cult?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I wasn't bought in yet.
Yeah.
And this guy who was here, I remember he probably saw the look on my face.
Yeah.
And he probably saw or heard something that I said.
Yeah.
And it was the first break. He came up to me and he was like, Rozzy, your story is your story.
Yep.
And my story is my story. You can't compare the two.
Yep.
So lean in. That's what that means. Give everything that you got, everything that you've been through, everything that you're battling, and lean in with it, man.
Yep.
And it was that moment where I'm like, all right, I belong here. Then what really sealed the deal is I went in your office. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember this, but you either had your Bible or a Bible verse posted up. Mm-hmm. And like we were probably mid-conversation, and I'm like, wait, Chris, are you a Christian? And you're like, yeah. And I said, I belong here. Like, this might not be the Christian-based environment that I was looking for.
Right.
But guess what? I got a brother that's right there.
Yeah.
And it was that moment that I was just like, yeah, I belong here. And, I never went, aside from my mom forcing me to go to therapy or counseling, I never went. Yep. And so I told myself, like, no one here knows me.
No.
I'm going to be 100% honest about everything and anything, and I'm going to try everything that this place offers, right? Yeah. And I remember we were doing breath works, and I'm like laying on the ground. I'm like, what is this? Like, it was just different for me, right? Yeah. And this lady, real nice lady, she's like breathed to the sound of the music, right? And I'm laying there, and there's this artist named NF, and he's not fully a Christian artist, but his music is like God related.
Yeah.
And he has this song called Paralyzed. And in the song, it talks about like, I'm feeling numb. Like I should be feeling something, but I'm paralyzed. I'm trapped in a box that I locked myself in. And this song comes on during Breathworks. Yep. And I'm a huge fan of NF.
Yeah.
He's not a big artist. I mean, he's like big now,
right.
But at that time, like, you could ask 9 out of 10 people, have you heard of NF? And they're going to say no. So when this song comes on, I'm like,
I belong here.
Yeah. And then I have my eyes closed, and she touched my chest, and it was just like,
got him.
Yeah.
He just broke, huh?
I can't even describe it, man.
You start crying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, it was something I never experienced. And keep in mind, through this whole time, like, my family's not talking to me.
Right.
But guess what? Like, what I learned And when family day came here, I had no family here.
Yep.
I had Kim. She sat there in the center of the room with me.
Yep.
But I needed that, Chris. I needed no family.
Yeah.
I needed, because I know myself, right? And it's easy for me to, like, I mean, you could go to counseling and not be 100% honest.
Put that facade on and play the part.
Yeah.
Not be open, not be vulnerable, not be completely honest about what's going on. For
Yes.
Sure.
And so I needed to be alone
Yeah.
to know that I'm not doing this to impress anybody.
Right.
I'm not doing this to make people believe that Rozzy's
okay.
that Rozzy's changing, right? Because Rozzy's always got to change. And it was just like, no, I'm here for me.
Yeah.
I'm here to get this help that I need. And it was a life changer.
Yeah. And that was big, right? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Mm-hmm. That's the verse that you saw in my office. It's interesting when people come here and they don't have the addiction piece, they often say like, am I in the wrong place? Like, because not everybody, but more times than not, people do have some sort of addiction piece to this. So that's a lot of what they're talking about when it comes to their story. When you look at our education and how it is that we present things, it's not all about addiction, right? Like, it's not. But when somebody like you is looking for all the reasons not to be here, the first thing they go is, oh, all I hear is addiction. All I hear is alcohol. All I hear is drugs. All I hear is 12-step. And it's like, I don't know if this is the right place for me, right? And so it takes those moments of like, look for the similarities, not the differences. Somebody to pull you aside and go, brother, your story is your story. Tell your story. Don't tell mine. Mm-hmm. Don't compare your story to my story, right? And just lean in and let us see you and where you're at. And when you started doing that, you know, it's no different than your faith, right? You have to be open to that. God doesn't just come in and be like, hey man, you know, I want to be part of your life. Like, I'm going to go ahead and force my way in. No, you've got to be open.
Yeah.
You got to say, hey, I want you to be part of my life. God says, great, I'm here. I've been waiting. Right? This is the same thing. Like, you've got to be open to that process. And if you're not, all you're going to see is the differences. And so many people don't lean in, and they end up talking themselves out of it or not getting the help that they need. But you're here, you're leaning in, and you're starting to realize like I'm open now, and all the signs are pointing that, hey, I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
Man, that breath works can be a really powerful thing. You know, when you get in tune with that breathing and your eyes are closed and the music's going and you're just walking through those emotions, and then to have that facilitator just lay a hand on your chest, it's crazy, bro.
I thought it was God.
It's crazy.
I'm like,
it's crazy. And it's just that little bit of touch, you know, and she'll just tell you like, you're all right, just let go. Because she can see you trying to hold on to this stuff, right? So if you watch it from outside, you see people laying there, you know, and they're breathing, and you can see them physically restraining that emotion, and she could see it. She could see it. And all she did was give you permission, let it go, bro, and you just let go. And then it all just comes out, and you start moving from there, right? And then family program comes along, and it's like, yeah, we do some of that Gestalt stuff where it's like, got an empty chair and you got a facilitator, and it's like you're gonna read to them just like they were here. And to your point, like, you don't have to pretend. I think so many times, if it's at the wrong point in time and we're not certain that we can be vulnerable with those people, we hold back.
Yeah.
We make out like we're stronger than we actually are. We put on the facade. I'm changing. I'm doing everything I can in hopes that whatever it is I need from you, you're going to give me. I'm not changing because I need to change. I'm not changing because I want to change. I'm changing with the condition that you're going to do what it is that I need you to do, which is let me back into your life or whatever. And you didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't have that. And to your point, like, God's facilitating all this, and he's like, nah, just you.
Yeah.
Just me. Let's get down to the real thing. And you did that. Like, you came in and you were I remember, dude, there were several times you were in my office, right? Like, there was quite a few times, which is great. I mean, that's why it's there. And I'm just honored to be a part of that whole process, you know, and to be able to be that same person that you've been for people in your career, you know? So you come here, right? And you're still employed at that time, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're still working with Corona PD. You come here, you have this stuff going on, right? You start getting through. The process is working. You're feeling better, right? Was there anything else that you can remember that kind of stood out to you of being here and some of those shifts that you had?
Yeah, I think like a lot of it was the people here, right? Like the open, the group setting.
Yeah.
I think that was really beneficial for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously like my alone time with Kim.
Yeah.
So like being able to, I was feeling like I was really relying on the group settings and Kim and like, okay, like I need to talk, like, you know, and it's crazy because I went from not wanting, like, you ain't gonna help me.
Yeah.
What have you been through?
Went from not talking, talking to can't
to
stop
where
talking.
I was just like, I need you guys, right?
Yeah.
Even to the point to where when my rock out, graduating the program, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if I was ready to be done.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to be. I didn't want to go back to, you know, the man that I was.
Yeah.
And it really opened my eyes to like who I was.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you know, one of the big things is just like it helped me find myself.
Yeah.
And understand that like I'm Rozzy, but I'm not the cheater.
Yeah.
Right? Like my sins and my actions and my poor choices can't define who I am.
Right.
And that's what you guys helped me understand is that because you guys saw me as someone different.
Yeah.
You guys saw me as Rozzy, the person that I couldn't look in the mirror and see.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the biggest take that I got from this place.
Well, we saw the cheater, right? We saw the depressed guy. We saw the anxious guy, right? We saw the facade. Like we saw all of it, and still moved towards you and said, "Hey, we accept all of it. We accept all of it. Let's look at it, right? Let's look at it. Let's look at these pieces, right? You are not the sum of your mistakes, right? Let's look at those pieces and address each of them as they come, right? Here's something that I don't like this behavior about myself. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's look at what that is and why that is. Okay, great. I can look at that in a place of empathy, kindness, and compassion over shame.
Yeah.
Right? It's the shame that keeps us stuck. It's the shame that keeps you down, saying that you're not good enough, you're just this, you're that, you're that, right? No. Let's look at that. Let's get to know that. Let's give kindness, empathy, and compassion to that person who's you know displaying those sorts of behaviors and engaging in those things. Let's look at that and see why. And pretty soon it's like, hey, that's not who I am. It's just something I did.
Yeah.
Right? It's not who I am. It's just something I did. And now we shed off all of that stuff. We work through all that, and out of that starts to come this person that's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we saw that guy early on, you know, he had some stuff going on, but we saw him early on, and now he's starting to show up.
Yeah.
That group setting is so powerful.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I think when I tell anybody about how it is that this works, it's like, I love watching guys walk in on the first day, right? I love seeing it. They're just bewildered. They're so confused. And part of it is, right, like, I can't believe I'm here. But the other part is, I can't believe what I'm hearing, right? It's apparent that these are my people, right? There's no, like, we got the patches on the walls. Like, you know that you're surrounded by first responders.
Yeah.
You guys walk and talk away. Like, you know you're surrounded by your people. My people are here. But the stuff that they're saying, the way that they're, like, we don't talk about that stuff. What are you guys doing? We can't talk about that. This guy's sharing about what?
We almost look at each other the same way the public looks at us.
100%.
Right? Like,
Yes.
not knowing that, like, dude, this guy's a firefighter and he's doing this. I'm like, I knew they weren't heroes.
Yeah. This guy.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah.
all jokes aside, like,
Yeah.
you know, whether it's EMT or dispatch or or police officers, it's just like, yeah, we're all human.
All human.
We all make mistakes. And I think that's one positive thing about me is like, I feel like I've never like held judgment over anybody.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced so much.
Other than yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's why I was here, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at forgiving you, forgiving anybody. But like, when it comes to me, it's like, I don't know if it's held myself to such a high standard, or if it's that I never felt like I've been like forgiven in that way, so I can't forgive myself. But it's definitely that this place definitely helped me with a lot of things. It taught me a lot of things, and yeah, you know, it was kind of sucky at times because I learned so much about myself here.
Yeah.
Right. And to not be able to share that with like my mom at the time or my sister at the time, and because they did, you know, they didn't want to talk to me, I probably didn't want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And but it was all worth it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's part of the transformation, you know, and it's a difficult piece, right, to have to go through that. And then to your point, it's like now we got people sitting around talking about getting DUIs and, you know, talking about, you know, the stuff that, you know, losing their tempers or whatever happened. Openly got this IA investigation because of A, B, and C, and they're actually in a position where they can talk about it, and everybody's here for the same reason, and a lot of that judgment starts to dissolve, right? And so the shame is met with empathy, and we can get outside of that shame. And so that, I think, again, where that group dynamic is so powerful.
Yeah,
you know. So you get through all of that stuff. You do well while you're here. You have your little rock out. You get your little coin, your little patch. You're feeling good. And you go back out into the wild. And how's life been since you got out?
So when I was supposed to go back to Corona PD, I had my meeting with the head honcho, you know. And I was ready to quit. And I went to hear what information I was going to be given, right? Like I already, come back to work, and it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and I regretted it at first, and I'm like, dude, I'm a cop.
Yeah.
Like that's all I know, you know? And I go to another police department, apply there. They give me a job offer. They tell me, oh, well, you just need to remove your hand tattoos. And I only had finger tattoos at the time, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So then I pray. I'm like, all right, God, look, I need you. You know me. I'm super hard-headed. I need you to close these doors, slam them in my face, right? So removing your tattoos, I was just slamming my face. I'm like, all right, no, I'm not doing it. Go to another police department, same thing. So I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to be a cop anymore. And like prior to that, I started filming different police departments, doing recruitment videos, really dialing in my craft and learning from one of the best, right? Like I got to work with a guy that you know.
Oh, yeah.
Taught me a lot, right? And so it was cool to kind of be able to...
Billy's over there right now.
Billy taught me a lot.
Billy's shaking his head like, you son of... Okay,
no, he knows.
Turn the camera and put it on Billy.
Yeah, he knows that he taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And
Billy's great, man.
It was an honor, like, working with you in those periods of my life, and just being able to, like... I'm raw, right? Like, I think I'm raw talent. And learning technicality of certain things, and like, you know, it really helped me grow as a photographer, a videographer, and all of that. And so, yeah, I decided to do it on my own. It was super tough. You know, people are like, what are you doing leaving law enforcement? My boys at Corona PD, they knew. They were like, dude, if anyone's going to make it out of here, it's going to be you. Because like, I'm pretty talented in that aspect, right? Yeah. Not to sound cocky, but like, art was my first love.
I was going to say it was originally what you wanted to do anyway. Yeah. You just took the long route to getting there.
Exactly. And I wouldn't change any of it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think God knew that, like, if everything didn't happen the way it did, I'd probably still be pushing a black and white.
Yeah.
And it's a hard career to leave, right? Like your benefits, all that stuff. But I mean, now, like, I make my own schedule, you know, I mean, I still work a lot.
Yeah.
But I make my own schedule. I'm able to coach my son's baseball. Like, there's more time, and seeing things like that is worth more than, oh yeah, you got a retirement or you got a pension or whatever. Like, and now I just feel like Rozzy, right?
Yeah.
So I started that. Then it got kind of rough, and my buddy was a manager at Toyota, and I'm like, dude, I just need income. So I go to Toyota, sell cars, and I'm like, I get there and I'm like, man, I thought like first responder wellness was a shock. Right? I'm at Toyota selling cars. Like, come on, what am I doing? I remember sitting there. Oh, you got to make 50 phone calls. I'm like, people get pissed off. And I was just like, yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Well, I don't know why you had to hang. Now I'm calling them back, Like, I think we got
like I want to hang up on you.
Yeah. So I did that for a year. But what was cool with that is my youngest nephew, he worked there already.
Yeah.
So he's 22 now, but he was 20. I think he was 20 at the time. And I got to kind of mentor him as his uncle, as a man, as all these things. And it was like God knew that he needed it. And I probably needed it too. But so I worked there for a year. And then finally one day, like, I went and shot a wedding. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm putting all my faith.
Putting all in.
Yeah, I'm going all in. And I think I showed up on a Sunday, fully dressed up, with my tie ready to sell a 4Runner. And I said, I quit. Like, what am I doing here? So I quit, and that was like over a year ago, and I've been doing my own business since then, just filming and just trying to take my gift and show it to God and let him shine through it, and hopefully it reaches other people. And through then I've shared a little bit of my story, but I think this is the most that I've shared my story on camera. And I just didn't know how, like I didn't want to come out there and, just throw it's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd give little bits.
Bro, you gave me like, I don't know, a minute of talking before you were like, here it is.
Yeah, I know. I like to,
That's
like,
all
I'm
right.
either all in or not. Right.
Hey, listen, I appreciate
That's my
it.
problem.
Yeah.
But, and you know what's cool, man? The last 2 months, I even went back into counseling at the Grove Community Church. And it's just what this place taught me, man.
Yeah.
You guys give us tools.
Yep.
Right? It's just like working out.
Yep.
You can't not work out, not go to the gym, but you're like, where's my six pack?
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Nope.
So it's the same thing. You guys give us these tools, right? To learn different things.
Yep.
To learn how to control your emotions. To learn how to calm down, walk away, box breathing. Love that. 4 seconds, hold, 4 seconds down, right?
Yep.
I still do that.
Beautiful.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I still do it.
Yeah.
So anyways, like I went back into counseling and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things too that you learn when you're here, right? You learn the benefits of therapy and counseling and those sorts of things. And then you leave out of here and you know yourself better now. And you're like, I'm getting to that spot.
Yeah.
And before I get any further, before I get too far down, you know what? Maybe I'll start doing some counseling, and you start doing that one-on-one stuff again, and you're okay, right? And you start to get back into the groove. So yeah, that's great, dude. That's great. So you did all this stuff, man. I mean, and 13 years in law enforcement, that's no shake of a stick, or whatever the saying is. I don't know. That's weird why I said that, but
shake and bake.
Yeah, whatever. Shake and bake, baby. I mean, that's a good amount of time, and that's a lot of service. And I'm sure on a lot of levels, you helped a lot of people. So that's definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean? And you've gone on to have life beyond the badge, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think, being able to work through the things that you've worked through and go on to be successful and where you're at, and to then take that, leap and say, you know what? I'm not going to stay here where I don't feel fed. I'm not going to stay here where it just feels like I'm punching the clock.
Yeah.
I'm going to chase that dream, man. I'm going to go where you started. You started that 18, 19-year-old long-haired kid who wanted to go to college to do art. Yeah. And you just kind of started doing the law enforcement thing. And thank God you did, and, now having your nephew there, he's going to have somebody to lean on. He's going to have somebody that knows the ropes. He's going to have somebody to say, hey man, watch out for these pitfalls. And hey, there's a place and people if you need help. So I think there's a tremendous amount of stuff there. If you were to know anybody out there that might need some help, what is something that you may say to them?
I think depending on their situation, I think listening is actually one of the biggest things, right? Letting someone know that you're actually listening to what they're saying, trying to understand them from where they're coming from, not just jump the gun. And it's been cool over the years. A lot of people have come to me because guess what? In law enforcement, I don't know how it is today. It's been 2-3 years, but when I was in, you're weak if you talk about your feelings, if you talk about what bothers you or what you've been through. You're weak. You got a serious problem if you come here.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But you know what, Chris? I was at a point where I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And I've recommended this place to multiple people. I think some have come.
Yeah.
You know, and it's it's just that initial moment.
Yeah.
Letting down your pride, letting down the unknown, right? Like not knowing what you're coming into. And I just try to talk to people through my failures.
Yeah.
And through my experiences.
Yeah.
And just being able to tell them, like, look, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there is.
Right? And get out of your own way.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing I learned here, man. I can't say it enough. It's like so many people self-sabotage. And I was one of them, you know? And that and being a victim and always having an excuse. You know, the greatest thing you guys taught me is get rid of the word but.
Yep.
I remember that. Because I would be like, yeah,
no
but.
Buts. No buts.
Just say and.
Yeah, but. Yep.
So that's it. I mean, you guys taught me so much here, right?
Yeah. That
I still use on a daily. And that's stuff that I would tell someone that regardless of what they're struggling with or what they're going through, like I think God gave me the gift to genuinely care.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, I might have to start charging you. You're calling a little too much, you know, but no. But I mean, if you're not sharing what you learned, then like, what's the point of it? Right.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. We're all here for the same reasons, right? To help one another and guide one another. Well, brother, I appreciate your time, man. It's, it's a story of tragedy and triumph all in one, right? Like there was a lot there and you came through it better on the other side. And I think as a result of that, you're going to go on to do some really good things. You know, it's really good getting to see you again and kind of catch up with you. So, if anybody hears anything out there, don't let the stigma keep you sick. Drop the pride and if you're struggling, reach out because there is help. So I appreciate your time. It's good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too, man.
Thanks.
And thanks for the mug.
Oh, that's right.
I'm taking it.
That's yours, baby.